Wednesday's video was my 1,000 subscriber special. Today's video is my 1,500 subscriber special. I'm good at this. Hey, at least this one is kind of on time. Been a while since I've done one of these, huh? Last one was before Christmas. I don't think that was a good one to leave off on for a while, and more than a few of you have been dying for the return. I must profess, I didn't realize how popular this series of mine would become. Much like all the stuff I do, I wanted it to be popular, but somehow I never thought it would be. And like always it seems, I got a weird one for you this time. Two figures that are near identical, and one that isn't even trying to be similar. Welcome to What's the Best? What's the best Blackarachnia? So, let's start out with the most recent figure to come out among the three. Kingdom Blackarachnia is a very good-looking rendition of a robot mode. Really accurate, with a few flaws. Her spider legs aren't right, the backpack dampens the look a good bit, and her neck seems a little hunched. But all of these are very deal-withable, especially in the face of her myriad of correct touches, the most impressive of which being the teeny tiny Predacon badge on her collar. That is so clean and crisp you can make out every detail, and it's amazing. I wish you could say the same about her face. Yes, I'm going to complain about this already again. The mouth's color is terrible, and the face looks like it was dipped in nacho cheese. And not only is it poorly applied on mine, but they didn't bother painting the spider eyes on the back of her helmet. The forehead crest that's supposed to be the Black Widow hourglass is just a rectangle on mine. Based on the product photography, I was worried the feet would look weird. I'm glad to say that's not the case. They look a little funny from some angles, but most of the time they look perfectly fine. One thing I'm noticing that's interesting is that her shins are a different kind of plastic than her upper arms despite being the same color. The shins have a nice gloss to them. Weirdly enough, on one leg she has the serial number stamped into it, and on the other she's got it printed on. Posability on this figure is pretty good, but she can't do a high kick. She is able to make Van Damme proud with an impressive set of splits though. I suppose you can use this to cheat a high kick out of her, to fit all your Cheetor face-destroying needs. She can pull a pretty good giggity goo. You can also give her that disgusted head tilt she always did. Durability on this figure does not seem great. I've had that clip that holds her chest down break, and I've heard reports of the tips of her claws breaking off, and I can't say that surprises me. She is immensely thin in many places, so handle with care. Transformation on this figure is okay. It's not great by normal Transformer standards, but by Blackarachnia standards, it's pretty decent. And you end up with this vicious-looking little spider. It's not accurate to the character at all outside of it just being a spider, but it's good enough, I suppose. Personally, I don't keep it in this mode. It creeps me out too much for that. Next up, we have the Takara Generations Blackarachnia, the figure that basically got me back into collecting. Now, this is very inaccurate to how the character is supposed to look, with the one exception being the head. Originally, I was blown away by the head sculpt, thinking it was borderline perfect, but now, no, not even really all that close. It's just subtly off in a ton of ways. It's clearly a rendition of her, but in like the old way, the way they used to do it, where all it had to do was look similar enough to the character that you still know who it was without having to ask. One thing I can say for this is that the paint job is much nicer with its more attractive gold, cleaner application, and crisp clear Widow hourglass, and the large Predacon badge on her neck. Clearly, this head was set up for light piping. Weirdly enough though, if you shine a light under her chin, you find out that her whole head is the clear plastic, and it's been painted over to achieve the look. There is a huge gap underneath her neck, by the way, and I really wish something could have been done to fill this. Despite how inaccurate this is, I do love this as a redesign of Blackarachnia. I like the way the legs tidy up behind her back. I love how she has hands, and I positively adore the tailcoat. However, this has a good few problems stemming from the fact that it's a retool of the animated Blackarachnia, really only changing the chest and head, and the mold is pretty flawed. The fact that the hands can only face up is annoying. The fact that she can barely stand is more annoying. The shape of her lower legs is okay, but it is one of the aspects of the design that I could take or leave. However, the feet are a travesty and should have been reworked. They have this awful workaround system where they split in half to give her a wider standing base, and it still barely functions. Why did they make her chest clear? There is nothing about the design of either of her modes that necessitated that. Posing is theoretically decent, but in practice incredibly limited. Her legs are a horror show to try and use. Getting her to stand in a T-pose is already hard enough. Trying to get her to do any kind of stride is untenable to say the least. You might think the arms would be fine, but I've never run into a more restrictive set of ball joints in my life than the ones on her shoulders, and they are also incredibly stiff. I oiled these with some pretty strong stuff, and they are still barely willing to move. But it doesn't stop there. Because of the weird positions and the open nature of her hands, she can never look like she's doing most anything. She looks like she's gesturing, and that's all she can ever do. She can't punch, she can't grapple, she can't hold a gun. All she can ever do is emote in a conversation, even when you don't want her to. And she can't even bend her elbows past a 90 to make up for some of it. She can also do this. Ugh. The first time I ever transformed this figure, I said at the end, that's it? Not in regards to the alt mode, but the process is really stupidly simple getting there. She just kind of scorpions really hard, and her head hides inside of her butt, her bust turns into mandibles, and there you have her spider mode. Ultimately though, I actually really like this and find it kinda cute. And it's the personal guardian of my phone when it's on the charger. It's pretty much exactly as accurate to the show model as the Kingdom version, even with it being a robotic spider and not an organic one. This mode is very emotive and posable, probably more so than its robot mode, and way more than the spider mode of either the Kingdom and even the Masterpiece. This is my favorite thing that she does. In this mode, I like to give her the crown off the oversized Cybertron Starscream I had once upon a time. It fits her both physically and thematically. I think this really punches her up and makes her look kick-ass in this mode. I really like the spider mode, and it's the mode she easily spends the most time in. Lastly, let's have a look at the Masterpiece. Is it any surprise that this is by far the best looking, most accurate one of these figures? This is like 95% accurate to the show model. Everything that needs to be a unique color is either cast in the correct color or painted. Weirdly enough, her collar-mounted Preda badge is oddly squished, and it's the one bad spot of paint on the whole figure. Her head is much better sculpted than either of the other figures. Both of them look like her if you squint. One of them more so than the other, but this one is exactly correct. Though her face is a weirdly flat color when borderline everything else on her is a gloss. Her feet are so skinny, it makes getting her to stand more of a challenge than it should be. It's hilarious that the smallest figure in the group had the biggest feet. This might very well be the most articulated figure of all time, while hilariously enough, not necessarily being the most posable figure of all time. Let me explain. If you're talking about her arm proper, she has like 6 redundant joints that all spin. Then she's got like 9 joints in each spider leg portion, 4 in each hand, and like 3 in the shoulder. So there's like 22 points of articulation in each arm, let alone her head, let alone her crazy waist capable of all kinds of motion, with an ab crunch, side crunch, double local rotation, with flexing mobile abs, got a joint in her hip that I've never seen elsewhere, legs are nuts, feet are nuts, she's just got tons, but no butterfly, so that's a shame. So yeah, mountains of articulation, probably more than any other figure I know of, but not necessarily the most posability of any figure I've ever seen. Much like the Kingdom figure, I'm really worried about this breaking. The plastic in much of this is distressingly thin, and the joints, especially the transformation ones, are tiny. Speaking of transformation, yes, I'm transforming it this time. This time, I don't have to deal with MP Megatron and Dinobot in the same video, 2 of the most complicated Masterpiece Transformers figures out there, so yes, I'll do it this time. Still sucks though. Oh god, I forgot how bad this was. Interestingly enough, it shares a bunch in common with both of the other versions, but those are fucking way more enjoyable. This transformation is trash. It has all the fiddly worrisome bits of the Kingdom with its way too thin transformation joints, and all of the that's it levels of finish from the Takara Generations figure. And hilariously enough, all 3 of them have their boobs transforming being part of the whole process. Gotta do something with them, I guess. The Kingdom really is a refinement of this transformation. And the end result is this. This is Spider? I have seen Spider before. This is not Spider. God, that sucks! Yes, it is technically more correct than either of the other 2, but that's because the other 2 weren't trying to look correct. This looks about 10% right, the head looks relatively right, the legs look right, everything else is a clusterfuck of parts concertinaed up into a ball hoping to fool you for maybe half of a second. From a distance. If you squint. Through a fog. This is why I said this wasn't worth doing the first time. Alright, so what's the best? This is a weirdly difficult one. Basically none of them are getting the correct alt mode. 2 of them aren't trying. 2 of them have bad alt modes, 1 of them isn't even remotely close outside of the simple concept of being a spider. The one that has a decent alt mode is the one least like it should be in both modes. 2 of them have really good renditions of the robot mode, while the one that has the really good spider mode is completely doing its own thing and has the least accurate robot mode. This is a mess. So, 3rd place is going to go to the Kingdom, I think. Yes, it's got a better spider mode and a better transformation than the Masterpiece, but they are almost the exact same figure, and the result is that the one mode these both share that's accurate is significantly inferior on this one. This is a micro masterpiece, but only because the Masterpiece is so flawed. This is basically that same figure, but minus 80% of the cost and like 60% of the quality. Then comes the Takara Generations. What can I say? In a leg race where every contestant has broken ankles, this one runs well. Is it as accurate to the original interpretation of the character as would normally rate something highly in What's the Best? No. But it's got 2 solid modes, and I love the reinterpretation this does. Though I hate the neck gap, and I really don't see why it exists. Hey, this is my list, I do what I want, and I want this as number 2. Of course, the winner has to be the Masterpiece. It's the only figure to actually nail any of its modes, and it slam dunks the one mode. The other mode is like it tripped in the bathroom and broke its neck on the toilet though. This might as well be a monoformer, but Masterpiece Blackarachnia is the best. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough of what I have to say. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.